Hi, my name is Mike, and I'm here to read a comic. And today's comic is The Avengers, issue number 171, dated, and it's not telling me the date on the cover. A little surprising. It is dated, wow, May 1978. God damn it, they were hiding that information. This is confusing because the thing is, the comic book companies wanted the news dealers to know the date of the comic so they would know to keep the comic out at least this long. Obviously, most newsstand dealers were not comic book readers; they were not comic book fans. So, the comic book companies would date the comics a few months in advance. So, if a comic was coming out in January, it might have a March or April date, and the thing is, distribution throughout the country was very uneven. So, someplace like New York, I was spoiled. I would get the comics literally the day they were released to the public. But there are places throughout the country where they might have to wait a month before they get the new comics. And they wanted to make sure the newsstand dealers would keep the comics out as long as possible. So it's a little surprising that they hid that date so much here. Take a look at the cover. It's a beautiful cover. It's by George Perez. George was drawing on all cylinders at this point. His art was just terrific. And again, it combines the best of Perez. You have all this detail, and you have these beautifully drawn faces, and this is just plays to his strengths. We see the centering the cover is the Scarlet Witch. She's apparently being driven mad by the kind of these prism-like images she's seeing of the Avengers being defeated. There's a large image of Ultron, who is one of the team's deadliest foes, along with a new character. I think it's called Jocelyn. This is the character that Ultron had created to be his bride. Similar to kind of like Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein, which is an amazing movie. And we see there's also another character here, a nun. I think it was Sister Eulipta. That's her name. So I'm going to go into this comic and turn the page. So we take a look at the splash page. It's a very busy one. So the events of the previous issue are flowing into this. So this is sort of like a cold start. Like if you were to pick this comic book up as your first read of the Avengers, and sometimes I did that because as much as I liked this era of the Avengers, even back then I did like it. I was not a regular reader of the Avengers, and so you'd kind of go in cold here because this is before Jim Shooter really had kind of emphasized the edict that treat every comic like it's the first. He kind of wasn't doing this with this issue. He was the guy who wrote it, by the way. But he wasn't the editor-in-chief, I think, at the time. So the title is Where Angels Fear to Tread. Talk about the creative team before I go into the story. It was written by Jim Shooter. Jim Shooter did a great job with this. It was drawn by George Perez. George did a great job with the art. Pablo Marcus was the inker. He did great work with George and others. And we see the letterer and colorist, and they definitely contributed. So anyway, we see it's a busy scene here. The Avengers are kind of like bulldozing through this crowd of pedestrians. This is sort of like, it kind of gives a Christmas feel to it, because those busy Christmas holidays in New York. The crowd's not impressed with the fact that these are Avengers here, because they're getting shoved here, and they're like saying, "Hey, dude, knock it off." But And the Avengers are somewhat apologetic, but they're like kind of like, hey guys, we gotta save the world here. You ain't doing it, so move your ass. So I'm gonna turn the page. What's happening is that there's a lady robot, as one pedestrian says, who had gone past them, and that's who they're looking for. So now I'm gonna turn the page. So anyway, the Avengers are trying to make heads or tails of what's going on because they're after a female robot who kind of looks like she's from the film Metropolis, that silent film, or she looks like a female R2D2, I should say, and they're kind of looking for her, and they can't find her. But nevertheless, these people have encountered that robot, and Iron Man's explaining this to the police here. That listen, we're after someone here. You know, she's a streetwalker, but you know she's made of metal, so her pee is kind of cold. We don't want to screw with this person, and we need to get to him. The Beast here is surrounded by some female fans here. I don't understand the sex appeal that someone like the Beast would have, because he's like a blue ape. But nevertheless, they were kind of selling this idea that, you know, hey, women are attracted to this. It turns out that the Beast, he's kind of freaked out about this type of attention. He later embraced it, but at first he's like kind of like, hey, what's wrong with you chicks? But he's lifted out of this crowd here, and it's by Thor. Thor kind of saying, listen, dude, this is not time for fan service. But, you know, the Beast is saying, listen, I didn't plan on this. And the crowd is kind of in wonder of the Avengers. It's weird because on one hand, the crowd is really awkward around these superheroes. Wonder Man is kind of saying, listen, we really need to take charge here. Because he's noticing the kind of like the tone is that the Avengers really aren't in charge of what's going on. And Wonder Man wants to take a stronger stand, but Captain America is saying, "Listen, we gotta let things play out. We can't force our hand here." The crowd is still bothering the team here. One member of the crowd sees the Scarlet Witch. She's very beautiful, and the Scarlet Witch has an offer to model some clothing. And one of the things that's being emphasized is how well stacked Wanda is. Saying, listen, you know, we have some fashion out there. We want to sell to the public, and the emphasis is sort of on girls of the double D's. And you have an impressive rack there, Wanda. Wanda is flattered, but she's like saying, listen, I'm a serious superhero. The Vision hears this, saying, listen, is my wife being sexually harassed here? Wanda says no. She actually calls the Vision my love. Now, at this time, they had been married. But at the same time, the Vision is seen as kind of a plastic guy. So one of the pedestrians, a female pedestrian who's in this group, she's freaked out by this. She's calling basically a plastic man her love, her husband. She does not understand this at all. But nevertheless, Wanda is off to join the rest of her group and not fashion model here. You can turn the page. Now, for some reason, there's a lot of time spent on these two individuals who own that. One of them owns the clothing store. The other one is an employee of it. And we're told of what's going on in the shop and how business is doing, why anyone would care about this. I don't know, but nevertheless, there's a very demanding customer in the shop. So the thing is, when the Avengers came and just grabbed everyone's attention at that point, these two individuals had left the shop, but they just remembered, oh yeah, we have that very demanding customer we have to deal with. We go back to the Avengers. They're getting an idea of where the robot that they're looking for is, because apparently the robot's very powerful, and she's been basically smashing through walls. So they're kind of following the Hulk-like type of damage that is going on here. So there's a lot of talk about what's motivating the robot here at this point, because it is a sentient being, and they're trying to figure out what's going on with it. The team comes across a drunk here. He actually does recognize what the Avengers are looking for, because Wanda is talking to the other members. They're talking about the robot. The drunk overhears. They're saying, "Oh yeah, I saw a robot. I saw a big robot, and the robot went off with a penguin. So all you have to do is just kind of follow the penguin, and you'll find the robot." The Avengers are like, "Are you kidding me? Seriously? What? Just kind of nurse your bottle and go back to sleep, and then it's a cold night in New York. Maybe you won't wake up. We won't miss you." And then they're saying, "Listen, that this guy's kind of just drunk." I'm gonna turn the page. Now it turns out the guy wasn't wrong. That there was a penguin, but it wasn't a happy feet penguin. It was a nun, and then apparently the nun, which is Sister Yupika, had intersected the robot Jocelyn, I believe that's her name, and they're talking here, and the sister's being very understanding about what's going on, saying, "Listen, I'll just take you someplace where you can be safe." So then we go back to the clothing store, and the demanding customer is there, and the demanding customer is actually Carol Danvers, who, as we know, is Miss Marvel. Carol, she's admonishing this older middle-aged woman in her underwear, because it's a changing room here. Carol looking really hot. Again, she's a girl of the double D's, and she's being a little testy and entitled with the store manager here. The older woman is looking at Carol, saying, "Oh, she's kind of a hottie here. I don't need the Scarlet Witch. I have this chick. Maybe I'll ask her to do some modeling." But the thing is, she doesn't seem like she's being very friendly, so she doesn't see much any real possibilities of that happening. She leaves the dressing room. Carol is alone, and then there's a huge flash of light. And the store manager, she's confused, and she attempts to enter the dressing room. I'm going to turn the page. And it turns out that Carol is no longer there. But behind her, we see Miss Marvel flying out of the store. So at this point, she had made that transformation from Carol Danvers to Miss Marvel. At this point, Miss Marvel was no longer a security expert. She was writing for a woman's magazine that was a subsidiary of the Daily Bugle. So the thing is, J. Jonah Jameson, just like Peter Parker, is her boss. But the thing is, she doesn't write hard news, or she doesn't, handle tough assignments like Peter, because she's a girl. So instead, she's kind of like writing this female-friendly side magazine for J. Jonah Jameson. I remember, like, the Daily News had on Sundays they would have an insert magazine, and I guess it's kind of based on that. So anyway, we go back to the core team, which I should say consists of Iron Man, Thor, the Vision, Scarlet Witch, Captain America, Wonder Man, and the Beast. So this is the A team. And the Beast is considered, in my eyes, to be part of that A team. He was a longtime member. There was some skepticism about bringing that character in. But yeah, I was completely fine with the Beast. Wonder Man, he had just, quote, returned from the dead, because there was always kind of interest in bringing that character back. He was a one-shot hero / villain. But the thing is, they had created a possibility of him returning in issue number 9, because he was put in suspended animation. Steve Englehart had used the character in a few years earlier with the Undead Legion, and then he was officially brought back around this time, 77, 78. This is when he was in the safari jacket and wearing the sunglasses, because Marvel liked the idea, or they were tinkering with the idea of having heroes who were not in costume, but would fight as heroes in their street clothing. They had done this in Marvel Team Up number 4, where the X-Men were largely fighting out of their costumes, and they were in street clothes. So they were kind of thinking that they could have sort of a mod squad type of situation, the young hip characters fighting superheroes, but they're in street clothing. I think they just had changed it, because he still had kind of the old outfit. They're still looking for the robot, so at this point they're just trying to figure out what had happened. The Beast notices someone is approaching from the sky. It turns out to be Miss Marvel. She looks amazing looking. One of the things that I noticed about both her legs and the Scarlet Witches, they're a bit thicker than most Anglo artists would draw those legs, and it's believed that George Perez, who was of, I believe, Puerto Rican descent, probably based his art on bodies that he knew. And Latinas tend to be a little thicker, they're a little stockier in general. He probably drew that body type because I think artist Bob McLeod, who was a pretty good artist, Bob McLeod, he spoke about the fact that artists tend to draw bodies they know, and he tends to be a smallish guy, so he had a lot of success drawing the New Mutants as kind of these smallish, non-adults characters. Neil Adams tended to draw characters that looked like him, which were kind of tallish, lanky guys. And so it's probably a style that George had carried on. But nevertheless, she looks beautiful here. We see some expository dialogue. Obviously, the Avengers being out on the street is going to draw attention. It drew Miss Marvel's attention. One of the things it looks like she inherited was the cosmic sense. I think maybe they leaned too much on her being kind of like the female version of Captain Marvel. So, when Captain Marvel had cosmic awareness, they had to sort of transfer that power to Miss Marvel. So that's why she knew the Avengers were there. It was female intuition, more or less. The Avengers are kind of like debating on accepting her help. They know she's a powerful individual, but they don't know much about her. The Beast apparently did have an encounter with her earlier. He did not really particularly care for her. This might be Jim Shooter talking. Jim Shooter was a guy who was like, boys read comics, not girls, and he was kind of reluctant to add powerful female characters. But I guess either he decided or someone above him decided that they need to have more estrogen in the group, because girls did buy comic books. I'm going to turn the page. So anyway, as they're debating, Wonder Man notices that there's another flying aircraft coming their way. Miss Marvel, who, as I mentioned, has that cosmic sense, senses that this is not a hostile aircraft coming at them. It's not like those drones who are coming at those Russian soldiers, but it's Yellow Jacket and the Wasp, and obviously because this involves Ultron, it's going to involve these two, because both of them are intimately involved with Ultron. Not in that way, but kind of, sort of, because Ultron does have some Oedipus issues. So anyway, the group is together. The Wasp appreciates the additional estrogen injection in the group. She's saying, "Oh, great, we got another girl to hang out with." And Miss Marvel, kind of being a little snooty there, saying, "I am not a girl. I am a woman." So, yeah, kind of, honestly, kind of putting Jan down here a little bit. See Yellow Jacket, he's talking to the others. Captain America is making a joke that, they're still looking for, quote, Tin Lizzie. So, the fact that, they're looking for the robot here. And they're trying to figure out what to go and what to do. So seconds later, they're all airborne here. I think the Beast and Captain America are the only ones who can't fly from that group. Also the Scarlet Witch. So they're in this small little aerial craft that Yellow Jacket is operating, and we see the others in flight. Wonder Man has those jet packs on his utility belt, and Miss Marvel, we're kind of focusing on her thoughts at this point here. She's wondering about her job, because she's saying, "Listen, while I'm doing this, I also need to be kind of like, writing some articles and editing some stuff. I got an issue of this magazine coming out, and J. Jonah Jameson is going to be kind of pissed." But at the same time, her cosmic sense is telling her she needs to be involved in this fight. So that's the reason why she's jeopardizing her livelihood here. So I'm going to turn the page. I don't think there are any ads in this scan I have. So anyway, the group, again, they're doing this in silence. So the group is sort of like in their own thoughts. But the only thoughts that we're being told about are Miss Marvel's here. And she's kind of like the fish out of water. Apparently she's getting some type of premonition about what's going to happen with the Scarlet Witch. But at the same time, she doesn't feel the need to actually kind of warn her about it. She believes her cosmic sense is telling her that this is something that has to play out. And I'm just hoping that I'm correct with my intuition that, Wanda needs to play this out and she'll be fine afterwards. Because she's going to feel really guilty if something happens and she doesn't say anything about it. So anyway, Yellow Jacket and Hank are talking amongst each other. Obviously, the issues with Ultron and the female robot Jocelyn, they revolve around them. Hank Pym was the one who created Ultron, and his invention was far greater than he realized, and his invention turned on him, just like with Dr. Frankenstein, where the monster turned on him. Ultron always had issues with Hank Pym. He viewed Hank as his father, but at the same time he was disgusted by his father, and he kind of wanted to replace him. And one of the things he wanted to replace the wife. Again, this is the whole Oedipus thing. And the robot was created to be a female version of Janet. Um, Janet knows this because she was like kidnapped, and her brain waves were copied and imprinted on the female robot's circuitry. So again, this is kind of like an Oedipus thing here, where it's the father and son, but it's really not the son, and it's kind of this crazy ass robot who has kind of these weird notions, but at the same time, this is an incredibly dangerous entity here. Then we see Wonder Man. He's talking to Miss Marvel. Can't blame him. Kind of this beautiful blonde woman with these stacked double D's. Wonder Man doesn't really understand why Miss Marvel is involved in this fight. He's skeptical of Miss Marvel, just like the Beast is. Although I think the Beast actually had an encounter with her. So that was the reason for him being skeptical, because he felt kind of burnt by her. But at the same time, Wonder Man is sort of getting that same sense from Miss Marvel. He's being very cautious, though he's being much more open about it, and he's being cautious with her. But nevertheless, he seems to be okay with the explanations that Miss Marvel is giving. Iron Man, he's kind of leading the way, simply because he has the type of equipment that would be able to track down this robot. I guess they have some type of tracers involved. They're heading toward a building that looks like a convent. Thor is freaking out here, because this is a place where a god is worshipped, but it's not him. And that was kind of the strange thing with Thor, was that he's a god that no one really worships. And in fact, when I read that issue of Thor, I think it was 181 or 182, 181, I believe, one of the writers mentioned that his favorite part of the comic actually wasn't the stories, which is understandable, but it was the debates within the letters pages. Debating the fact that is Thor really a god, because gods exist to be worshipped, and who's worshiping Thor other than maybe Jane Foster? And so they would sort of have these debates. This is Jim Shooter kind of like touching upon it, but nevertheless Thor's kind of freaking out here. I'll turn the page. So anyway, the team lands. They're about to enter the convent here. So they're preparing for what's going on. Thor's being kind of freaky. The ladies, particularly Scarlet Witch, they got the big boobs hanging out here. So they're entering this convent where one of the tenements is modesty and respect. Meanwhile, these women are coming in with these tight outfits, probably wearing nylons to protect their legs, with these big boobs hanging out. So anyway, they knock at the door. Sister Eucalypta answers. She's talking to Jan. Jan's saying, "Hey, we're Avengers. I guess you're I'm the Wasp, and I guess you're the Penguin." And the Beast gets really leery here, and he says something in Latin. So I guess he was waiting for his opportunity to use Latin here. Latin, as we know, was an actual language. It's a dead language because no one in the world practically speaks it. It is spoken like in the church, but outside of the church, no one speaks it. So I think the Beast is kind of using this as an opportunity to show off his mental acuteness. He's being pervy about it. So he might be one of these guys who is smart and educated, but he kind of weaponizes it a little, And I guess maybe when he's involved with a woman, he kind of shows off how smart he is, and that's sort of his quiet way of putting her down. And he might be getting a sexual charge here because he's saying this to a penguin, and this is like super taboo here, along with the fact that this might be kind of like borderline bestiality. So anyway, the sister Eulyptus is mentioning, yeah, I did come across that robot, and she looked like she was someone in need, and I'm a penguin, and I'm someone who helps people in need. I'm a holy roller here, and I'm out there with the van. I'm looking for souls to save, and I saw a metal one there, and I went for it. Iron Man is noticing that the tracking signals that they were using are now shut down. So they're kind of Iron Man's speculating that whatever circuitry was working is no longer working at this point, and she might be deactivated at this time. We don't know why, so they're a little nervous here. Thor's kind of freaking out. At least he takes off his helmet, so he understands that he has to show some decorum. But at the same time, he's freaking out here because, again, he's a god. He views himself as someone who was worshipped, and he was worshipped at one time. But, the people have moved on beyond him. Middle Earth, or Middle Asgard, whatever they call it, has moved beyond him. And Thor's kind of freaking out here. He's talking to the Scarlet Witch about it. And, Scarlet Witch is kind of challenging him, saying that, you feel uncomfortable. Well, maybe you should. Turn the page. So Thor's going on about his existential crisis here. Wanda is noticing that they might be being watched. She feels like she's being watched. And this of course, is being noticed by the Watcher. And based on the metallic hand that we see here, obviously it's Ultron. Ultron is very acute to any type of changes, and he notices that if the Scarlet Witch is starting to become suspicious, that's going to spread amongst the other members here. Because Thor's in his own little world here. He's kind of like, he's just concerned about, his own godhood here. He's not thinking of the danger. Ultron wants to be a step ahead of them, and he activates something that produces a large bright light. And the nun is gone. The penguin has vanished. And the team is kind of thrown for a loop here. Wanda has disappeared also. The Vision's freaking out here, saying, my wife. And Wonder Man, he's keeping his wits together. So Wonder Man, he's showing some good leadership skills. Even though he's not in a leadership position, nevertheless, he's showing himself to be a cool member under fire. So they kind of want to make sure that the fans, when they brought back this character, it was well thought of, and that this guy's going to be a good addition to the team. Iron Man and Captain America, they're talking amongst themselves. They're trying to think that, okay, we know Ultron's behind this. It has all his fingerprints on it. But they're not sure what to do, but they know they're going to be in for a fight. Ultron is a physically imposing opponent. He is an intellectually opposing opponent. He is AI. He is what what's that guy, Sam Dalton, or whatever his name is, the AI guy. This is what he was dreaming of with Ultron. The Wasp, she hears noises from behind the door, and Yellow Jacket hears the same thing. So he opens the door, thinking, listen, I'm going to take the lead on this. Yellow Jacket was a guy who was not afraid to take on a leadership position, even though he was always kind of iffy about being an Avenger. And he opens the door, and then he's given some dialogue from Ultron himself, but he has not been revealed to the reader. Going to turn the page. And finally, we see Ultron. Ultron, he is sitting in front of his control board. He is relaxed. He's not worried. He thinks so little of the Avengers that he's not even going to stand up. I'm going to sit down here. I'm settled in. There's a lot of expository dialogue here. One of them is Wonder Man's thoughts. So he's thinking to himself. He's really kind of impressed with Yellow Jacket here, saying that Yellow Jacket, he's out front, and Wonder Man's thinking that I should be out front, but I'm kind of a pussy, and I'm staying back here. So Wonder Man, even though he's showing good leadership skills, sometimes he doesn't always walk the walk, and he's noticing this, that one of the more vulnerable members of the team is out front here with this walking time bomb. Miss Marvel is seeing Ultron for the first time, and she's horrified by how imposing this guy is. Don't blame her. This guy was drawn imposing. It would be scary to go up against Ultron. Captain America is... Wonder Man is saying something to Captain America, saying, maybe I should be out in front, just in case. Captain America saying, listen, don't worry about it. Yellow Jacket has this covered. You just stay where you are. So Captain America is being a reassuring presence for Wonder Man. Wonder Man, he had just returned from the dead, so he's kind of like he has to get his feet wet. Ultron is addressing Yellow Jacket only. He's calling him Dad. He's giving out the game plan. This is the expository dialogue where everything is kind of explained from his point of view. Basically, Ultron is saying, listen, I'm lonely. I kind of want someone there who's going to hold me when I have some troubles. Hey, metallic monsters have feelings too. And I want what you want. But I also want you dead. So I don't have to be reminded that what you have is real and mine is an imitation of what you have or what you are. Because if you're not there, hey, it's mine, I guess. That's kind of Ultron's thinking here. I think what happened was originally Ultron wanted to transfer Jan's entire being into the robot. That didn't work, but the thing was, during the transfer, the brain patterns fused with her circuitry. So it kind of worked, though not in the way that Ultron intended. He's fine with this. That's what he's saying. Ultron then goes on the attack, saying that you're a crummy dad, and that all my anger issues can be traced to you. And Ultron, he uses his eye beams, and he goes for a header on Yellow Jacket, expecting Yellow Jacket to be kind of headless here. And Ultron is thrown for a loop here. I'm going to turn the page. And it turns out that Yellow Jacket had anticipated an attack from Ultron. He was prepared for it. He came up with whatever pseudoscience was convenient to negate it. So the thing was, Wonder Man was concerned, thinking that he should be the one who, out in front, because he was one of the strongest members. But Yellow Jacket had this covered. He said, listen, my secret Marvel science has this covered. The other members, they're kind of standing there with their dicks in their hand, except for Thor, who's kind of waving his hammer around. the Vision has his cape in his hands, of all things. Miss Marvel is talking to Iron Man here. She's talking about the premonitions and the feelings that she had about Wanda, and she's saying that I don't think he killed Wanda, and I think Wanda's still alive. Iron Man likes this, what he's hearing, but he's like, listen, Yellow Jacket gave himself immunity from Ultron. He might have done that with Jan. We're not 100% sure, but he definitely did not share this technology with us. And Miss Marvel, you're vulnerable to this guy here, and this guy has incel energy like you would not believe. This guy will red pill you to death. So then the Avengers go on the attack. Ultron is not impressed. He stands his ground. He fires his laser blast. They are impressive. Ultron is talking about his adamantium body. Basically, his adamantium body is the densest property in the universe, and the only thing that can shape it is an internal device that he has that allows him to modify it. It's the only science that's known that can make adamantium that fluid, and that's internal to Ultron. And because of that, there's no real way of damaging his body. Ultron's power blast, he throws the entire team for a loop. Ultron is twirling that metal mustache of his. He is enjoying this. And the first Avenger who goes on the offense is Wonder Man. Wonder Man, again, he's showing some doubts, but he's overcoming those doubts. And he belts Ultron. Ultron is kind of surprised by this. He did not expect a human to move as quickly as Wonder Man did. Going to turn the page. And we're going to look at the letters page. Avengers Assemble. The first letter is from Mitch from Brooklyn. Very complimentary. The one thing I did notice, they're talking about events that happened in issue 166. So, and this is issue 171. So and the Avengers was monthly. So for some reason, there was some type of backup with the letters, because they're talking about issues that came out almost 6 months earlier, and again, they're talking about Ultron here. That was and it was written by Steve Englehart, and Steve Englehart always wrote great stories. And he's talking about the Beast, and the fan was initially worried that the powerhouses of the team, because this is one of the strongest teams, was going to overshadow maybe some of the weaker Avengers, like the Beast, Yellow Jacket, the Wasp. He says that's not the case. That these characters are holding their own. They're holding their own in terms of power, in terms of contribution, and in terms of being a personality. They may not have the greatest powers in the world or the strongest, but they have good personalities. And and Mitch appreciates that. The next one is from Kevin. He's from Glendale, California. The addresses are here. So thank God John Wayne Gacy never read comic books. He again is talking about how good Avengers 166 was. And again, this was a great error for the team. It was weird because they did have issues with keeping a regular artist. George Perez did it for a while, but he at times he could be temperamental, and sometimes he did not bring in the work on schedule. So that was a problem, particularly since this is one of their biggest selling titles, and it was such a prestigious title. And they had issues with Steve Englehart, coming and going. But nevertheless, like art through adversity, they came up with a lot of good stories. Then we see Wally from Wally Worlds from Illinois. again, he enjoys the storylines, what's going on. He likes John Byrne's contribution, and he's happy with George Perez, and yeah, they're kind of saying, hey, they kind of you guys are great, but, kind of shake things up though. Dean from Nebraska, he's talking about the Wizard, and he's talking about the lineages, the lineage that he has with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. I think in Avengers Giant Size 1, it was said that the Wizard was actually their father, and that the mom was Miss America, and these are superheroes from a previous era, and they were kind of brought back. Roy Thomas liked heroes from his era, and the thing was, the Wizard was apparently claiming to be their parents. This is before Maury. They kind of had to take his word for it. And then they changed it so he was lying about it, or he was incorrect, which I think was fine with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. They're saying, listen, the old man with the yellow outfit calling himself the Wizard, and he kind of smells it. He isn't our dad. And then there's talking about Chuck here, who apparently has been buying Avengers comics since issue number 1. He is a dedicated fan, and he's talking about, again, he's saying there's a lot of great Avengers stories. And around this time, Avengers Annual number 7 came out, and that's Jim Starlin concluding the Thanos saga, the second part of the Thanos saga, after his great run on Captain Marvel. And he's saying, yeah, you guys rock. And yeah, that's about it for the letters. So anyway, we're going to go back to the story. We see Wanda. Wanda is just becoming conscious from what happened. So I guess that transporter incident, whatever happened there, kind of took something out of her. And Wanda finds herself in kind of this strange place where there is furniture, recognizable furniture, but at the same time, she's in this room made of glass. And she's seeing this kind of like hall of mirrors of her images from different angles and different sizes. I guess it was inspired by an Orson Welles film that he had done with the lady from Shanghai. And he had done that with his then wife, Rita Hayworth. And the classic scene was the one that he had done with the mirrors. So I'm guessing that's sort of a homage to that. Wanda is kind of confused about what's going on. She doesn't know what's real, what isn't. She knows that the place is designed to be very disorienting. So the thing is, she's disoriented, but she knows that was the intent. She keeps her wits together. She's trying to figure out what's real, what isn't. She finds that she is actually going through the floor here. So she stepped on something that was a trap. She's in free fall here, but it's complete darkness. She doesn't know what's going on or whether she can survive or not. I will say, if she bites the bullet here, she has never been more beautifully drawn. She lands in some water. She finds herself in a whirlpool here at this point. So she knows exactly where she is. She doesn't want to be there though. I'm going to turn the page. So then what happens is that Wanda is kind of thrown out of this watery environment, and she's put back in her glass mirror cage, rather harshly though, because she hits it pretty hard here. So Wanda is disoriented. She's soaked. She's upset. She's hurt because like it looks like her right arm has at least sprained, if not broken. And she's kind of just thinking of, what am I going to do here? We go back to the Ultron and the Avengers here. They're in fighting mode. Wonder Man is about to sock Ultron here. Ultron is not impressed. He's saying, "Listen, dude, this is just dramatics for me, and you're kind of boring me." He's being really insulting, though. Wonder Man, he's having some reluctance to actually hitting Ultron. And because of this reluctance, Ultron is able to strike back here, and he strikes back rather violently at Wonder Man. Can turn the page. So then Ultraman, Ultron, I should say, he's there. He's daring the Avengers to take him on. The Avengers are kind of going right to him. Four of the most powerful members are heading straight to him. The Vision and Iron Man from the air. Also, Thor is flying in, and then we see Wonder Man. They're flying in low. The other two are flying in high. They're all attacking Ultron at once, including Captain America, who uses his mighty shield. Ultron, he's not even thrown for a loop here. He's still on his feet. He strikes back at the Avengers here. He's saying, "You guys have no chance. None. Zero." Miss Marvel is not in the fray. Miss Marvel is looking for Wanda. So while the others are dealing with Ultron, and Ultron is being distracted by the fight, Miss Marvel is using this as an opportunity to search for Wanda. And because Miss Marvel has that sort of cosmic sense, she's able to sort of use it as kind of a radar. So Wanda is flying through the halls of the convent here. She's thinking to herself that that Wanda is in serious trouble. She has an intuitive sense of what's going on with her, and she understands the need to find the Scarlet Witch. However, there is an observer of Miss Marvel. This observer is pointing a gun at her, and the gun fires. However, Miss Marvel, just in time, is able to change the direction of her flight. So she's aware that she is being hunted at this point, and she's heading for the sniper. So at this point, Miss Marvel knows what's going on. Can turn the page, and we see its sister Ellipta. She's the one firing on Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel is kind of like, surprised that the Penguin here is doing this. Although if she had seen the Blues Brothers, she would not be surprised by that Penguin firing on her. Miss Marvel goes in. She goes for a headshot. So she delivers this left overhand punch. It knocks Sister Eulyptus' head off. So it turns out she's a robot. And Miss Marvel's kind of thrown for a loop because she didn't see that one coming. Miss Marvel also notices that there's some water coming from under the doorway here. So she's going to investigate that. Meanwhile, we go back to the Avengers, the core team. Ultron appears to be winning. Ultron has the other members of the Avengers in a status field. And the status field is so powerful that even Thor's hammer can't break out of it. Some of the members are knocked unconscious. So it looks definitely the Beast. I'm figuring probably maybe Yellow Jacket and the Wasp, one of them, is unconscious. But the other members are trying to break out of this force field. And they're not being successful. Ultraman, he's strutting around, talking about his wife here, his bride. He has the robot here. He looks like he's trying to wake her up. So that he's kind of like the anti Bill Cosby here. She's activated. She does address Ultron as the husband, and he introduces himself. Hey, I'm Ultron. I'm going to be banging you. However robots do it. Jocelyn acknowledges that Ultron is her husband, is her love, because it's been programmed into her. But at the same time, she also knows that she has to attack Ultron. It's like, I love you, but I have to destroy you. And she fires an energy blast at Ultron, right in the face here. Ultron's thrown off by this. This is a powerful blast, because he's not going to make a weakling of a robot. But he's also thrown because he's surprised. I'm going to turn the page, and I'm going to look at Marvel bullpen bulletins. Stan's soapbox. Basically, Stan had been questioned, saying that, by one of his fans, saying, listen, there was too much promotional stuff, and you're not really being Stan. We're not getting personalized, writings from you in your soapbox. And Stan is acknowledging this. This happened at Virginia Tech, because at this point, Stan Lee wasn't really involved with the Office too much. He was just call in on Jim Shooter. He would check on the main titles, but he really wasn't following what was going on. He was doing a lot of promotional work, and he was called out by one of the students. And Stan was thinking, hey, that's right. I'm kind of losing touch, because he would have his set shtick, with the college crowd. So he's going to put more personal effort into his soapbox. The first item is about Howard the Duck, how successful it was. Oh, they're talking about England and their awards, and apparently the Brits they like Howard the Duck. They like Steve Gerber and John Buscema's work. Their favorite comic by vote was Conan. Their favorite writer is Chris Claremont, who is a favorite son. I believe Chris, I don't know if Chris, he was born and bred there, or his parents were, came to America, but he does have a tie to England. He's also, they figure Chris Claremont was also a favorite because he's also writing Captain Britain. Again, hey, kids overseas, they bought comics too, I guess, but I guess Captain Britain really didn't catch on. The origin of the new X-Men was based on the president, Martin Landau, wanted to improve sales overseas, because it turned out that Landau owned the distribution company that distributed Marvel Comics overseas. So he tended to focus on what was popular with the markets that he was involved with, more so than the American markets. And the Marvel bullpen, they hated the guy because he was a complete jerk. And what they did was they did give him the international team that he wanted, but they drew from countries that he did not have a distribution deal with. So that's kind of like what was going on overseas in the 70s. The next item is about the next Marvel Treasury edition. It's on the Defenders. That was a great one that had reprints from issue number 4, the introduction of the Valkyrie. They had two-parter, issues 13 and 14. I remember buying 14 off the newsstand. I was in the 2nd grade. That's when Nighthawk came into the group. And there was the origin story of the Avengers itself with Doctor Strange, Namor, and the Hulk. I really enjoyed that edition. Next item is Spider-Man Pocketbook. Simon & Schuster had reprinted early stories of Spider-Man in pocket editions. I had some of those. Again, it was just kind of a cash grab. And talking about Crazy Magazine, which never sold. Next item is just someone in the office. I don't know why they're mentioning this person. And they're talking about Dracula, saying apparently that, what's going on with the Dracula title, which is, I think, ended 79, because the legal department told them that, we're not quite sure whether Dracula is public domain or not. And then we see a small little teaser with Miss Marvel saying coming soon. Sorry for that. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the story. Jocelyn, she's explaining her actions to Ultron, saying that I love you, but I also hate you because you're kind of a dick. Ultron is furious. He's a very controlling robot, and he is deep in red pill culture here, and he's angry. He's blaming the father, Henry Pym, for this. Of course, when something doesn't go right, Ultron immediately blames Henry Pym for it. But then Ultron, in mid-rant, he's interrupted by the Scarlet Witch and Miss Marvel, who entered the room. And Scarlet Witch is really pissed off here. She's wet, she's angry, she's cold. She uses her hex power against Ultron. It's a power that Ultron has a weakness to. From what I understand, her hex power affects probability. And she makes events that are unlikely to happen to actually happen. So, for example, Ultron short-circuiting is something that would just about never happen. But because of Scarlet Witch's powers, she's able to create that short circuit. So Ultron is being attacked from inside. He's going nuts here. He doesn't like it. He's whining. He's whining like a little bitch. This is a guy, when he's on top, he has no mercy. But when Ultron faces a little bit of adversity, he whines like a little bitch. And he's whining, saying this is not fair. It's only fair when I do it. When it's being done to me, this is totally not fair. And the power, Ultron is cracking up, because remember, as I had mentioned earlier, the device that can mold adamantium is being activated. So the short circuit activated that device, and it's being used against Ultron at this point. He's fading. He's crying out for mommy here. Again, he's a little pussy. Thor is attacking him with his Uru hammer. I think Iron Man is kind of joining in also. And Iron Man's thinking to himself, hey, we owe the Scarlet Witch something, because she was the one who got Ultron to get those defenses down, to open himself up for Thor's attack. Gonna turn the page. I guess it's part of Jim Shooter, kind of like because he wrote for the Legion, so he was used to writing a teen book, and he was someone who kind of like wanted everyone to be included. Okay, so at this point, Thor has kind of has basically used enough power to destroy Ultron. But the problem is that as that power is building up within Ultron's shattering body, it could also explode on them. So Thor is able to jettison Ultron into orbit. And then once Ultron is safely in orbit, he's able... This is enough to keep any damage from the upcoming explosion to a minimum. So at this point, it looks like Ultron has been destroyed for good, which we know isn't the case. The team is relaxing. They're concerned about Wanda. They do see some remnants of Ultron, his outer shell. So basically, his internal parts, his core parts, they were jettisoned into orbit, but kind of the outer shell is still there, but it's cracked and unusable. Wonder Man is thinking about this. He's realizing that he has a new role in life, and that he feels that this is sort of a baptism of fire. That there was a little bit of hesitation, but for the most part, he was proud of the way that he reacted, and he says, "Listen, I can be a valuable member here." Henry is kind of saying, "Listen, I'm glad this chapter is over with. This is the darkest moment of my life." Jan kind of disagrees with that because she was the one who got belted by Henry. He sunk lower, but at this point he feels like, hey, that crappy son that I kind of sort of gave birth to, it's over. He's gone. The Beast notices that the Tin Lady, Jocelyn, is not there. So while all this was going on, she had kind of slipped out. And the team is saying, "Oh, we got to look for this robot again." And Wanda kind of just speaks for the rest of the team, saying, basically it never ends. The story never ends. There's always something tomorrow. And then the fans are told that the next issue will be called Holocaust in the Hudson. So they're really leaning on the New York location. And that's it. And that is my review of The Avengers, issue number 171. And I hope to have more reviews up soon. Bye.